Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chat Show. Happy Wednesday. In this segment, we talk about employment and equal opportunity for people with all abilities is the center focus area. And there are two forces: empathy and innovation. These two forces are truly driving employment for everyone, inclusive of people with all abilities, people with visible and or with invisible disabilities. And in this segment, we always talk about the leaders from the staffing industry, leaders from the disability community, and the tech world. Today, I have a very unique guest and empathetic leader, Leslie Kischer, a president and assured healthcare staffing. She is a business owner and a true empathetic leader, serving patients and their families in a holistic way, which we will be learning how her and her team, they see the patient in a more holistic way in building relationship and serving this patients. And during this difficult time, it has become even more important, at the same time challenging for her and her team. In 2018, Leslie joined assured healthcare staffing and spearheaded company-wide system upgrade that implemented both front and back end of the business. Her passion for connecting with people and providing holistic healthcare solutions is what set her apart in the healthcare staffing space. Her vision and passion and empathy make her leadership very unique, especially during this challenging time that we are all experiencing over past 18 months. With that, welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Nish. It's very nice to be here.
And so, Leslie, let's start with a little bit about you, your background, and why I know you have this amazing career path from the pharmaceutical to now healthcare as a leader. So, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Um, I did work in the pharmaceutical industry. And prior to that, though, when I was right out of college, I did some work at a staffing agency. I was a temp and I was put on assignment, and that was my first experience with staffing. And then I moved into pharmaceuticals. I did training and development, and I also did vendor management, and I worked in the research group as a people manager. And that role really was it was intended to create a space of advocacy for the internal staff, as well as the several hundred IT consultants that we had in our group. So managing those relationships. From there, I really started to focus. I realized that corporate America was not for me. In my experience, there was an utter lack of empathy. So I left that role and then did several entrepreneurial things. Started small businesses and got into sales. And then when I was given the opportunity to come to Assured Healthcare, my why had very little to do with my background in healthcare, because I am not a healthcare professional. But there were two reasons that I felt passionate about it. The first one was when my grandmother went into decline, she had to move in with my parents. And it was at that time when I saw the real meaning of caring for someone. She was suffering from dementia, and she also had macular degeneration. So it was not easy for her to be safe in any space. Mm-hmm. Her caregivers allowed her to continue to live a very robust life, but always with someone around.
Mm.
I was very touched by that, moved by the caregivers that were part of her life at that time. And then the other part is really a little bit, it refers back to that, my stint in the staffing, the temp world. Um, I was, like probably many at the time, put in an assignment and then forgotten.
Mhm.
It was an uncomfortable and unfriendly feeling. I did well and felt confident in my abilities, but I never felt like I was part of anything. I was not part of the company I was working for and not part of the client that I was serving.
Mhm.
So, given this opportunity to come into staffing, I thought maybe I could make a difference in how we engage our employees, how we make them feel like they're an important and loyal, part of our team.
That is so amazing. That's a true reflection of your personal experience as a temp employee, from there to um, managing the program and having few hundred employees and see how their challenges. So those observations, and combine that with your personal experience of that good quality healthcare services. So tell us how the pandemic has impacted every one of us, and that quality services, and that holistic approach, building relationship with the family members. Some of the things which you shared earlier with me in our earlier. Tell us a little bit about that. See why it is important and how it is really impacting not only the patient but the entire family.
Right. Well, one of the things that became apparent when the pandemic shut everything down, long-term care facilities were overwhelmed, and we saw our long-term care facility clients struggling to keep their residents safe and free from COVID, or recovering as quickly as possible. Of course, that was before there was a vaccine. And one of the things that we saw happen as a result of how hard the long-term care facilities were hit is many families chose to move their loved one out of the facilities and back into a home care setting. Um, that creates a tremendous amount of pressure for having resources in place for the care of someone in the care continuum, from somebody who is independent but is recovering from a surgery, all the way through to somebody who no longer can take care of their daily activities. We are we are working as a team with the family member or primary caregiver, our care team, and any other services that we have, such as respite care for caregivers. We're working with agencies to bring whatever we can to these families, so that the some of the burden of care is taken off of them. Quite frankly, our healthcare system doesn't have any clear path for how do you make decisions about your aging or infirm family members' care? How do you get to the resources? State by state, coverage for things like hospice are
Mhm.
dramatically different. So, our goal, since we saw all of this happening in the home care space, our goal is to bring together as many resources as we can, so that we can offer some peace and ease to the family members that are caring for the aging population.
Yeah, I mean, it's that navigating through the system and finding those services. It's a maze, and it's so complex.
Is
So that's exactly what we talked about, that how you and your team, you guys work in a holistic way and in an empathetic way, because you understand this and you have these other connectors, or your other partners and providers. So you plug in and build the complete holistic solution. Now, talking about this further during this difficult time, frontline healthcare workers are facing serious burnout issues. Um, how are you keeping your staff motivated and energized and positive? It must be very difficult for you and your team.
It is. It is, and yet we found that recognition is a powerful motivator. We we have put in place several programs that are designed to acknowledge the value that our staff brings to our client and our company. And those programs are consistently, they're tied to, in some cases, tied to clients recognizing our staff. So we're constantly giving feedback and rewards for when our clients acknowledge our staff for being great employees, and also a performance management system that allows us to have our staff, instead of have them churn and leave because things are not going well,
Yeah.
we train our internal staff on coaching our field staff. So they have coaching training, and they spend time with the field staff talking about not just about the job, but what's going on in their lives, what has changed, and talking to them about if their performance, if they need time, if they need resources, if they need something from us, let us know, and we can work with that. And the goal is to keep the staff that we have and help them with their lives. Um, it's the empathy part of it, where we really want to know who they are
Mhm.
and acknowledge that sometimes things go awry, rather than there's just not enough healthcare people
Yeah.
not to take the time to make them feel like they're heard, and that we want them to be part of our team.
Yeah. As you mentioned, there are not that many healthcare people. What are the new trends during this time you have seen, and which is helping your organization as well as us as a whole, as a society?
Well, the one of the biggest trends that we've seen, obviously everybody's seen, is the rise of telehealth,
Yeah.
and that is clearly going to change the face of healthcare, because it's not going to go away. Now, there was a lot of pushback until this time, the fact that it can't be done. How do we bill for it? All the reasons that. But the reality is there, all of these folks, whether they were in a facility or in their homes, they needed to consult with their doctors, but didn't have the option to leave their homes because they felt unsafe. So we're definitely going to see more of that. We're going to see more of that. We're going to see more, for the long term, more shortages in healthcare professionals. There was a shortage of healthcare professionals before the pandemic started. We Once the pandemic started, we saw a lot of our healthcare people opt out, either because they had their own issues, they were close to retirement, so they decided to take retirement, or they lived with family members who had underlying issues and couldn't be in the healthcare space at that time because they would put their family members at risk. So there's been a big migration out of healthcare, and that has, because the need has continued to increase with all of the new needs within the pandemic. We are seeing that the pay rates are changing dramatically in the healthcare space, and I don't think that's done yet. That's definitely, and in a lot of cases, when a CNA or a certified nurse's assistant is the backbone of the healthcare system and barely paid minimum wage, um, that's now no longer the case. And I think that what has happened is we've reached some equilibrium with some of the pay. It needed to happen, um, but unfortunately, it was this tragic event that was the catalyst for the pay becoming more in line with the work that they do, because CNAs and nurses they do the heavy lifting in the healthcare system. So that trend is definitely not that wave isn't over, I don't think.
Yeah, and how is this all impacting hospitals? Because you briefly mentioned that some of the talent pool is moving from the hospital settings or environment to others. So tell us a little bit about that shift and the new trend.
Well, um, the interesting part about hospitals is that they've always been focused on moving patients from acute care into post acute.
Hmm.
Well, with so many hospital systems overwhelmed with patients during the pandemic,
Yeah.
this has even become more intense.
Hmm.
The shortages, of course, mean that the hospitalists are becoming burnt out. There's just not enough people to do the work, and we're seeing a migration from hospitals into staffing so that people can make a living doing what they love to do, which is nursing or caregiving, but without the intense hours intensity that a hospital ecosystem is especially right now. Um, we One of the things that we are able to do is offer them flexible schedules and options for what type of work they want to do, and that's something that's been a big draw. So we're seeing that happening.
Yeah, and that's something I'm pretty sure it's helping you retain the staff, because that's the kind of now talent and professionals are looking for that type of flexibility. So um, is that helping, or how is that now if you give those flexibilities and those flexible hours, um, how are you managing? Is that like a new thing your organization is doing, or that was always there, or how that is changing, or
Right,
it,
right. It's always been our tagline is work when you want, because we know that a contingent staff is transient by its very nature,
Mhm.
um, both on the client side and on the staff side. So instead of pushing back on that, we've always embraced it and said that this is one of the things that we do for you is we take the time to learn where you are most comfortable working, what your schedule is, who who is involved in your life, so that you have to, if we have to work around, and sometimes we're able to do special schedules so that our staff can really take advantage of the flexibility, and our clients appreciate the help and will often accommodate. So we really do try to make sure that we're working to give everybody that is in our sphere of influence the opportunity to take advantage of the flexibility. And that has worked very well. One of the things that has happened is as the pandemic has increased the shortage, there are more and more requests for ongoing long-term help. And that's definitely a challenge. But it's also one of the things that allows us to take some of these hospitalists and give them full time ongoing work for the foreseeable future. So, even though it can be challenging for on the side that wants flexibility, it's really a gift for the staff that needs that full time ongoing work.
Mm. So You also talked about the reskilling and training more healthcare workers. So what's happening? Any innovation? Anything new happening? Because that's, as you earlier mentioned, shortage was there. It
Right.
got even worse during this difficult time. So how is that, or any of your initiatives within your organization, or anything you have seen?
Sure. Well, we actually have a an internship program, and there's a couple of things that we were able to do. We were able to work with our local workforce development organization, the Lake County Workforce, and they what they can do is they can support minoritized people's journey into the healthcare ecosystem. We can take new grads, for instance. The way the internship is set up is we take new grads. They go through the Lake County Workforce organization, and they are have a paid internship, and we put them with a senior, for example, senior CNA
Hmm.
into a facility so that our clients are not responsible for doing on the job training. So essentially, our clients get a 2-for-1 experience. And we've done this with several staff members. We bring them, we have a good relationship with a local community college, so we're able to bring brand new grads. We also have some CNAs that have worked with us who received their CNA certification while in their senior year in high school,
Hmm.
and those CNAs have been mentored as well through the internship program, or just by having a more experienced CNA shadow while they started their career in healthcare. Traditionally, the clinicals that the CNAs and the nurses have to go through, it's not enough hands-on time
Mm.
to put them into a position where they can be the only nurse on staff.
Independent.
Yes, exactly. They need some time where they know that they have that. Yes, they have that support. And if there's something they're unsure of, they can lean on somebody who has more experience. So being able to put this internship program in place and working with the Lake County Workforce has been really dynamite. And we hope that we can continue to accelerate that program as well.
That is so great. Yeah, we are at Rangam, as you know, we work with people with disability. We hire people with disability ourselves, and we also help them find meaningful job. And we have just started a very similar internship program. And there are some great programs and government programs out there, which can help us really rapidly ramp up the
That's
workforce and
fantastic.
together.
It's
Um,
so rewarding.
yes. Any innovation, or in the technology you just briefly mentioned, that some of the telehealth technology has started, more and more adoption has increased.
Right.
Anything new, anything interesting you have?
Well, I am actually constantly researching what products are out, and there are more than ever. I know the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas had more healthcare
Yeah.
products revealed recently than ever before. So, it although it's not my area of expertise, I've seen things that are from the fall side of the call buttons. They have watches that for somebody with dementia that you
Yeah.
can geofence, and if they leave the house, an
Yeah.
alarm goes off, so that caregivers know that there's potential danger. So there's things like that, and then things that are much more analog, like somebody who is wheelchair bound, they have pants that you can take on and off while you're sitting in a wheelchair. And it's the simple things that when a family has a loved one with diminished capacity in one way or another, they don't know what to look for. These are the types of things that we want to be able um, to point our clients to, our clients' families to, and help them with the simplest things to the more complex things. But we're really just constantly doing research to be able to make these suggestions and offer help and really ease the path of the caregivers who the primary family caregivers really so often burn out themselves. So
Yeah.
that's our
Okay.
desire, is to be that type of company that gives them that space.
That's that's great. So, and before I ask you more futuristic question about your vision next 3 to 5 years, I want to ask one more question about our industry. And I know you are attending ASA event next week. I attended staffing industry SIA's CWS summit last few days. We all talk about efficiency, scalability, holistic, and total talent management, and
Right.
it's the competition is um, it's just it's an extremely competitive marketplace in the staffing world. How do we bring more empathy to the staffing industry? That's one of the questions I always ask. So please share
Well,
your
and
thoughts.
it's a great question, and it's a very important topic to, and I have to go back to my experience as um, a temporary employee. And I think that one of the things that's most essential in creating a more empathetic ecosystem is that we acknowledge how important the members of the staffing community are. It
Mhm.
is the field staff, the contingent workforce is essential part of the American economy, and not always acknowledged for being essential. But also in the staffing industry, the challenges that staffing leaders face make them experts in employment,
Mhm.
and and really acknowledging how much they have to offer, and creating partnerships within the staffing industry, I think, is a tremendous way um, to to build empathy, not just for the contingent workers, but also within the leadership.
Yeah, yeah, and more collaboration and partnerships, and how do we bring in efficiency, innovation, quality, delivery of services. In fact, that's so true. This is exactly what the keynote and some of the conversations during SIA CWS summit we were talking, and I'm pretty sure you will have same or similar conversation at ASA. Um, so let's talk about future. We always, this industry has been evolved. You have seen um, a lot of changes from you working as a temp worker to
Hmm.
running a staffing, healthcare staffing firm as a leader. Um, how do you see next 3 to 5 years? Um, Hopefully soon we can say post pandemic, post COVID. Hopefully soon.
Right.
So how do you see that?
Well, I think particularly in the healthcare space, there will continue to be shortages, um, but I also think that we do have an opportunity right now because of what has happened to really leverage um, the staffing industry as a key player in the American economy. I mean, I think that we have the opportunity, and if we work to build partnerships with other staffing agencies as well as our clients, partnerships rather than just being a vendor who puts somebody in place and does never have that conversation of how can we solve a greater problem for you. So I think right now we absolutely can do that with our clients because there's so much need for help. So it's a great opportunity right now, and I see that we can leverage that. It hasn't always been the case, but we do have that opportunity. The pay for not just healthcare, but I think that IT probably has this engineering the same kind of challenges where the pay is going up because there's not enough people to do the work that needs to be done, and I don't think that's gonna change. Initially, when the pandemic started, I thought perhaps it would come back down. It would go up and then come back down, and perhaps some of it will, but I think largely it's not gonna happen. We'll see that going on.
Yeah, at least next few years, I don't think that's some of the data shared at the conference that there are about 9.1 million open racks, open jobs out there in the staffing industry. Companies like ours are trying to fill. So it is huge.
Huge.
And it's a challenge, but also it's at the same time it's a great opportunity for all of us to partner, collaborate, innovate, and build solutions so that we can not only survive but thrive.
Right.
That's the goal. So so nice talking to you, Leslie. I really admire and appreciate your leadership, and also I would like to thank you and your entire team for just doing some amazing work during this difficult 18 months. Um, all your team members at Assured Healthcare Staffing, wishing them best health and um, and good quality mental health, because we all talk about that, and right now that's a huge
Yes.
challenge when you are dealing with so many patients, so many healthcare related challenges, every family. So wishing you, your family, and your entire team all the best, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Nish. It's always a pleasure to talk, and thank you for the work that you do. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We will continue our conversation on employment, innovation, and empathy every Wednesday, as we all talk about, and we will have some great, passionate leaders and thought leaders lined up in coming few weeks. Looking forward for that conversation. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Melinda, for doing amazing job in delivering the message. Uh, uh, Thank you again. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you. Take care.